All right, well, I'm going to get going before we get too late here. Thank you all for joining. I got this recorded, so um, I will post this on the Tornado Hockey YouTube channel for review, but also for others to see that couldn't make it. I got a couple emails, some folks that couldn't make it. So tonight we're going to be talking about player pathway and development and the pathway to elite teams and opportunities. And then we'll kind of veer into like the spring and summer with development and training and also tournament teams. And then just different development tracks too and development paths that are out there. And then we'll have a Q&A portion. So if we could, let's just kind of hold off to the end till the Q&A. I'll just kind of go over everything and then we can bounce back to where we need to. If there's questions pertaining to the topics that we covered, or if there's different topics, that's fine too. We can go right into those. So again, this is a Game Changer Parent monthly call for October 2022, and this is for you. So you know, my intent is to get you the information, what you're needing. If you have a need or you have a desire to know something that hasn't been mentioned, then speak up, please, because I want to help answer that that itch or that question or fulfill that, you know, information for you, knowledge for you, so that you can feel informed and in the know and able to make the best decision for your child or children. So I'll just start off by saying most everybody on this call, if not everybody, I'm kind of looking through it here, is either from DFW or from Texas. So what I'm going to do is I am going to really kind of channel this for those markets, for DFW youth hockey and for Texas youth hockey. All right. You know, every market is different. And when I say market, I mean city, because in each city, there's different organizations and there's different rules in those cities. And, you know, even in the organizations, there's different rules. So, you know, we only know what we know because of our experience, but I just have been, you know, all over the US, and I just know it's different in Minnesota, even it is from Wisconsin, who's just to the east of them, you know, and Minnesota is kind of an anomaly anyway, but that probably wasn't a good example. But Illinois and Wisconsin are different a little bit. And so Massachusetts, the out east, is different than the Midwest. So is it much different? No, but it's enough to inquire, why am I doing it this way? You know what I mean? Or why are we doing it this way and they're doing it that way? So especially with all the time and resources year after year with it, you're like, wait a minute. So it can get confusing if not, but just know that all cities are a little different. But, you know, the true coaches and the true, I should say, individuals in hockey that are interested in player development all kind of have the same theme of player development. And you'll see that through the years and through just talking to different people. So for the DFW and Texas area and Oklahoma area, because we're all in Taha, all under the same affiliate under USA Hockey, it's basically, you might know this, but I'm going to go over it anyway. Basically, in the fall and winter, Taha pretty much runs everything and governs everything within USA Hockey. They're under USA Hockey rules, but then they also have their own rules on how every youth hockey program in Texas and Oklahoma can operate. And that's just how it is. That's how it's set up. It's a structure of USA Hockey. They have the top, then they have the districts, then they have the affiliates, and then they have each organization within those affiliates. So Taha is an affiliate, and it's Texas and Oklahoma. And so in the fall and winter, Taha operates all the youth hockey programs. All youth hockey under USA Hockey is run through them. And so I will veer back to that in a minute. All right. But in the spring and summer, USA Hockey kind of lets loose a little bit. and therefore the affiliates do, including Taha. And you can play for different organizations and with different set of rules. For instance, in the winter, in the fall and winter under Taha, you can be on one roster if you're a tier 2 hockey player in the travel league. And if you're not in the travel league, you can go into multiple. But in the spring and summer, if you're tier 2 and travel, you can play on as many teams as you want. It doesn't even matter. So it's it kind of just opens up a little bit as far as, rules go. All right. So that's the game part of it, the governing games and rosters and all that. And then there's development, I guess, points of view and I guess development, what's a good word for it? Philosophies would be a good word for it. Development philosophies. And Taha has really, really bought into the ADM model at 8U and under, 6U, 8U, as many of you can attest to. I can attest to it. My son went through it himself. So, it's just what they do, and it's what USA Hockey recommends. And they do get a lot of puck touches, and there's a lot of great things in ADM that will provide lasting skill development. And I think before it even became the word or acronym ADM, which is American Development Model, coaches were doing that stuff. It's just more mandated now, and it's easier to follow for coaches that don't have a hockey background, if that makes sense. So, and then after that, they still follow the ADM model. Taha does for 10U, 12U, but it loosens up to include more full ice stuff. Although there's still a lot of station-based practices. And one example of that is McKinney follows that really strict. They're a USA Hockey ADM, I guess, program. And so therefore they follow the ADM model at all levels, just very strictly in their practice models for development. So that's the fall and winter. In the spring and summer, it's more of the wild west, and you basically pick where you want to go. Although in DFW, if you want to make a team the following year, you typically have to go to that team's spring camp. So if you're a 6U or 8U player and you're going to be playing 10U in the next couple of years, just know that if you want to play for whichever program, whether it's McKinney, Tigers, Penguins, or the Elite, you have to go to their spring program to even get a shot. And a lot of times you have to get selected even to go to the spring program. They have what they call showcase weekends. And from there, they select who can even go to the camp over the spring, over the next 6 weeks. So you go to one weekend where it's just, I don't know, 80 kids, 60 kids, and they pare it down to like 30, 40 kids. And those kids get to go to the 6 week spring camp. And from there, they have tryouts, and they pretty much pick their camp during the spring. They pick their team during the camp. So for the Dallas Stars Elite, they're the only AAA program in Texas and Oklahoma. So if you want to play AAA, you got to play for the Dallas Stars Elite. That's the way Taha set it up. So Taha has one program, and that's the Dallas Stars Elite, where you can play AAA hockey. And therefore their spring is truly in the spring. And tier 2 has now just a couple of years ago gone to the summer, where their camps they begin in July. So in the spring, you try out for the Elite. And if you make that, you can go to the camp and then try out in June. And after that, if you don't make it, you would go to a tier 2 program and go through the same process, where you go to a showcase weekend and then like a 5-week, 6-week summer camp for either the Tigers, Penguins, Brahmas, Warriors, McKinney, or this is in the DFW, of course, and then go to tryouts at the end of July. So that's how it works in DFW. Now, in the smaller markets like San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, they can actually have their tryouts at different dates. So again, it's a little bit confusing, but it's set up for each particular city to be able to operate in the fairest, best way for development and most equal way to provide for all the players in that community. So that's the fall and winter. Okay. That's a lot. You might have to go back and listen to that. You'll probably have more questions on that, and we can go back to that for sure. Spring and summer, a little bit more like the Wild Wild West, especially recently. There's been more and more, I guess, people have started like spring teams and summer teams. And you can basically just pay a fee and join these tournaments, some of these tournaments, and go to them. There's so many tournaments out there now. But the high-end ones, the real high-end ones, are invite only. And usually they have their programs that are invited to that, and no one else can go. Now in COVID, since the pandemic, that actually loosened up a little bit because of restrictions, and the tournaments had to have enough teams, and they had to make enough money too to keep the doors open. So they loosened up on that, where they allowed other programs to jump into some of these tournaments, not all of them, some of these elite tournaments. But that we see that going back to where it was, where the programs that were invited or are members of these elite tournaments are the only ones that can go. And as an example, I started HD Engine with Clage Cable. We're part of what used to be called the Brick Series. It's called they just rebranded it to the BioSteel Next Gen Series. And so that's like a AAA super elite tournament status like tournament. And so we get to go to that out of this region of the country, out of Texas, Oklahoma, Midwest area. And so there's teams from, Connecticut, Chicago, Boston, Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver has teams. LA's got a team under Western Selects, and they come west too. They sometimes take some Dallas kids. So it's just it's a little bit more, play where you can play. Or where you want to play. And so that one gets a little sticky, in my opinion. We started HG Engine for the kids in this area, in this region of the country, to play high-end tournaments so that they could have exposure to it. And that's the only reason we started it. And that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And since then, spring and summer hockey has grown so much. There's way more organizations, there's way more tournaments, can get very convoluted. But there's only a handful of really high-end tournaments out there. And the other ones are good and they're great experiences and they're in great cities. But if you're looking for the highest end, then you got to be careful what you pick. If you're looking for just to play, you can probably find a spot to play. And my deal is I would like to keep kids playing together from this area, not necessarily all from Dallas, but from Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado. We get kids from Colorado, St. Louis occasionally. That's like St. Kansas City, like that little net like region, that circumference region is kind of like our, I guess, target market for kids for HD Engine. If I'm just speaking of the organization I run in the spring and summer, that's who we target. That's who we want. Now, if there's kids interested from other parts of the country, we're not going to say no necessarily, but we would prefer kids from this part of the country, and that's why we do it. So with that in mind, you might ask, well, why do these tournaments? Well, you can go on, there's two sides to the ditch on this one, okay? You can do no tournaments, and then you're not seeing other players from different parts of the country that are really developed and have good hockey IQ, that are your sons or daughters' age, that you go, wow, the kids this age play that good. They know how to play this well. They know how to hustle that hard for that long, and until you see it, you think some coach is crazy for saying that's what they're doing up in Toronto, or that's what they're doing in Boston. Oh yeah, okay, whatever. Well, once you see it, you're like, okay, yeah, it's true. So, but there's the other side of the ditch where all you're doing is tournaments, and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, which is I want to get my kid exposure and I want him to be seen by other coaches and stuff. At this age, at 6U, 8U, 10U, that is the wrong reason to do tournaments. Bottom line, the only reason should be doing those tournaments is, number one, if you have the time and the resources, but number two, to get that exposure to the competition, not to the coaches, to the other players, to that kind of development, playing against their own birth year, where they're going against really good hockey teams and really good players. That would be why you do it. And also another thing for the BioSteel series that's really good is they have destination cities, and they make it where you can plan your vacation around a hockey tournament weekend, and just kind of, you know, because that can be a lot too. You got tournaments, then you want to go on vacation. Sometimes you can nail two with one zone, you know, and so they do a good job of that. I know the SoCal one, I think our 11s are going there next year, is an awesome vacation slash. It's in LA. It's by the beach. It's awesome. It's an awesome vacation slash high-end tournament. So they play one game a day. You're not at the rink all day. You play one game a day, and then you can go to the beach after that. So like it's that kind of setup. It's not just, it's got the whole perspective in mind, you know, because you got to think, like, a lot of times and a lot of you younger parents, or I should say younger parents with younger kids, what you're going to find out is when you go to some of these tournaments, you're basically in an airport, restaurant, hotel, or rink the entire weekend, and then you're going home. So, wow, I saw Boston. No, you didn't. You saw the airport, the hotel, and Applebee's. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you saw. So, you know, but it's okay. That's why you're going there. You're going for the competition, right? So, okay, so that's kind of the landscape of fall, winter. I did the best I could to like condense that. There's more there, but that's like a summary, okay? There's more there, just so you know. That's fall, winter, and then there's spring, summer, okay? All right, so spring, summer, I'm gonna kind of segue more into this. In my opinion, this is where your player can get really, really good, because you can really focus on skills and skating and speed. And if you want to talk about development track, then yeah, I think it's very important to get with a good organization and a good coach that fits your player. I do think that's super important. However, you can not only make up time, you can excel. Let me rephrase that. You can make up development in the spring and summer, but you can also excel in development in the spring and summer. And I've seen it happen year after year. I mean, year after year, I've seen kids go for it and get better and make teams in the fall. And it takes that long, and that's pretty quick if you think about it. I mean, you're putting together, you know, 4 or 5 months. You know, in a lot of cases, I see kids start skating 1 year before, and I have players on my current Penguins team that did this. They started skating 1 year before, but they were at the rink twice a week, doing a skating lesson. They're at the rink doing some sort of like skills work. They were working at it, you know, and they were in a program, or they were with the coach. They're doing both maybe. And so they did what they could do for their family's arrangement to get the most skill development in the spring and summer. And I think, you know, that combined with shooting at home, doing stuff at home, stick handling at home. For goalies, it's a little different. You got to do different stuff at home than the regular player. However, you know, you can do stuff at home, and it's really important at the younger ages to do that. I got a good shot in my dad's garage. That's where I got my shot, because I shot 500 pucks a day when I was, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. And I wanted to score, and that's why I did it. And I also knew that I needed a harder shot to do that, and a more accurate shot. So, you know, there has to be a little bit of understanding there. I feel like sometimes kids don't get why they're shooting. Like, there needs to be like a end goal in mind. Like, hey, I want to make this team, or I want to score more, and I'm going to work for it. And I think those are great life principles too, by the way. And even if it's, you know, I'm going to coach so-and-so twice a week and going to skating coach once a week, and that's your plan. Okay, that's good. Work at it, go for it, and have that goal in mind, so that they have a carrot dangling to go after. You know what I mean? Everybody needs vision. As a matter of fact, without hope or vision, players don't make it. No one makes it. Everybody's got to have hope and a vision. And so that is why you will never see me personally as a coach or parent or anything say, oh, you'll never make the NHL. You'll never hear me say that, because I don't know, and neither do you. And I see parents finalize their kids. Oh, I know my son's not going to the NHL. I'm like, well, if you say so, I guess you're right. But how do you know? You don't know that. Like, they could, if they get the proper training and they go for it, and then all of a sudden they get a vision and they work hard at home. It's possible, especially today. Maybe 20 years ago it was way harder, but you see all these non-traditional market NHLers coming out now, and it's because the training's available. There's more technology to learn. There's better ways to do things at home. And it's just all in that skill development realm where you can really get better. So from a skill development standpoint, spring and summer are huge. Teams go into the mix of that. I think it's healthy to have some games in that mix, and go to a tournament or two and keep the competitive juices flowing, so to speak. So I would recommend that if it's possible for you to do that. I would totally recommend that, because at the end of the day, kids love playing the game, and that's the reason I did the IQ games in the summer too. It wasn't like full ice tournament play, but they were games, and they were learning how to play hockey with decision-making principles within those small games, and a good way to do it at home. So I tried to supplement that as much as possible. And I am doing that again, by the way, in the winter here coming up. There, I got like 9 dates that are possible for that. So if you're interested in that, hit me up on the side for that. Development tracks. What time is it? I want to have plenty of time for questions here. Development tracks. I'm going to go into, take a deep breath. Okay, that's a lot. All right, a lot of information, and there's more there too. And it's going to be impossible to get this all in one call, but hopefully I can get a base there for you so that you can wrap your mind around it a little bit. Development tracks are really hard to communicate. And it's because every player kind of peaks and hits a good period of development at different times. Some kids do it at 6 years old. Some kids don't do it till they're 12. And so, that's a big difference. 6 years is a huge difference, right? Now, those are the two extremes. We see it more tight at 8 to 10, where they're really, really seeing a big growth track. Meaning you can really physically see the difference, and they can, in their own confidence, can feel the difference in their improvement with their skill and how they play the game, and then basically their success on the ice in the games. So the tracks are different. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a broad stroke here. And then if we need to get more specific here in a little bit, we can. But what I see a lot is a lot of the culture today is we want things now. It's just the way companies are wired. It's the way we're wired. We want to see things happen right now. And if we don't see it right now, what are we doing wrong? What do we need to adjust? And I'm not against making tweaks. I think that's important. However, that doesn't mean abandon ship from the plan. You know what I mean? So it's like a company having a 2-year marketing strategy, and after 6 months scrapping it because they didn't see an immediate result. Well, they didn't stick to their plan. I mean, it's a 2-year plan. So in this case, it's way longer than that. If your kid's 6 years old, it's a 12-year plan. It's a long process. It is a marathon. And the biggest advice I can give you, not only as a parent, but as a coach that sees it all the time, is be patient. Be patient. Make adjustments. Encourage your kid. Live in the moment as much as you can, even when it's frustrating. And I'm preaching to myself here with that right now, with my own kid. But live in the moment, because at the end of the day, we want our kid to be the best. We've poured all our time into this, our money, and we want them to go for it, right? And as long as they're giving their best effort and they're having fun, as parents, that should be enough, because they're going to learn life lessons. They're going to learn how to play hockey. They're going to have great friends. And if they play this game long enough, those friends could be friends that will impact their career possibly. Because I know in my own case, I have hockey friends that have impacted my own like career, like as a coach. And so like it's way beyond their playing career, in my opinion. And so even though they're little guys right now, the development track's different. So what we'll see is I'll give you two examples. We'll see a kid, he gets really good early, and then he stays good and he's at the top. And then all of a sudden puberty hits at 13 or 14 or 15. Everybody else is catching up. The game became way harder, and maybe they get discouraged and they kind of fall off the radar because they got discouraged because they're just used to winning and they didn't develop a work ethic over those years to get over things and to fight through things. And then they can't do it when they're that age. That's not a good scenario. It's actually advantageous for the other kid that develops a little later, but learns to fight through at a younger age, stick with it, keep learning how to skate, learn your edges, hockey IQ, stick handling, passing, shooting. And then all of a sudden they start to hit puberty, they become strong, and now it's all coming together and they're starting to make teams, and maybe they go to the AAA, maybe they're at the A or AA level and they go to AAA, right? I mean, there's stats out there of draft picks in the NHL that when they were, 10, 11, 12 in Minnesota playing A hockey, which is like AA here, but playing A or B hockey, which would be like A here. And then, they hit puberty, they stuck with the development process, and thinking 6 years later, they got drafted in the NHL. I mean, because it changes so quick when they get in their teenage years. I mean, they can literally grow 4 inches over a summer. Well, that's a game changer for some players. You know what I mean? That is a complete, they can win puck battles now because they're bigger and stronger, and all of a sudden they have the puck more, and they have the puck more, they have more scoring chances, they have more scoring chances, they score more, and if they've been working on their stick handling and skating the whole time, it just all comes together, So those are two examples of kids that would have a different path just based on their development track. You know what I mean? And so, I think it'd be good to, if you're interested in keeping a pulse on your players' development track, is talk to multiple coaches. Don't just get one opinion, because everybody's imperfect. I mean, if you just came to me, that would be an error, because I might not see something that would be very advantageous for you to see, or I might misassess something that would be advantageous for someone else to assess correctly. So, it's the old, find who you trust, get a couple opinions, and then put your head together and see where it lands. You know what I mean? And that would be my advice to you as far as development track, keeping a pulse on it. So I'm just going to probably stop there. I'm going to get really confusing if I go any further with that. Here's what I did want to show you, though. I'm going to screen share something that that was really interesting to me. I hope you can see that. This is on Instagram, the Rink Shrinks, and you can go to Instagram and find all kinds of stuff. You got to be careful with that too. Because you never know who's giving you the information. But these guys are like parents. They have more of a parent tone in their posts and in their information. And this is just a really good perspective, I guess, post and quote. It's, you always hear it'll go by quick and you'll be missing it one day. So next time you have that early morning wake up or late night practice or a long road trip to a game, remember, it will end one day and you'll be wishing for it. And I can tell you, I experienced that as a player, much less a parent. I mean, my son's 14 and I go to these rinks and I'm leaving the rink and I see 8U games. And I got to stop and go, man, I remember that. That was so fun. That was so fun. It was such a good time. They're little guys just loving the game, So enjoy that time. It's frustrating and hectic and crazy as it can be sometimes, and just in embrace it all, embrace the good, embrace the frustration, for crying out loud, you know, and just blow it off, because it will blow over, and your player will be ready to play the next day if we don't ruin it for them. You know, and so as parents, you know, sometimes we can do that. And I don't think I see that as much as I used to. I think parents are really aware of that now. But the point of this whole post is that, you know, it does go by quick. And you will remember these days. Oh shoot, let me go back to this. I'm going to go to another post that I put in CoachNow. And this is a little, can everybody see that? Give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Okay. This is something I created, actually, because I had been mulling over, like, what is the entire scope of what it takes for full out development for a hockey player to play at an elite level. And this is what I believe it is. There's an inner circle, and its mindset is at the top. Attitude, nutrition, life away from hockey, athleticism, mobility, and skill. And ironically, these two right over here on the top three are what we tend to just focus on all the time. And at the younger ages, that's all we need to focus on, really. I mean, we got to keep the rest in mind, but these are like the more important ones. But as you get older, the whole circle becomes more relevant. And then you got offshoots of like mindset. And so inside of mindset, you have compete level, confidence, which really I should have put that on top, because you don't have confidence. It doesn't matter how skilled you are. You're not going to play to your skill level if you're not confident in it. So let's say out of 100 rating, 0 to 100, your skill level is 94, but your confidence is 68. Well, guess what? You're not playing at a 94 skill level. It's not happening. So confidence is huge. I'll get back to that. Communication, high level excellence, meaning how do I do things? Is it an excellence or is it sloppy? Okay, attitude, positive outlook, being a good teammate. What's your worldview? Is everything revolve around me as a player, as a kid? Or do I respect other people? And I know that I'm not the only one here. Body language. That's a big one. Nutrition, protein, carbs ratio, vitamins, minerals, sugar intake, and hydration. Life away from hockey, school, friends, free time, faith, and religion. Huge. Athleticism, speed, strength, motor skills, agility, mobility. As a hockey player, ankle, hip, shoulders, and knees. Ankle and hip probably being the most important ones for hockey players. But you got to have good mobility. And skill. Hockey IQ, foot skill, hand skill, and skating. Okay, so inside all that, you got skating, shooting, stick handling, passing, right? And then hockey IQ is how you think the game and how you make decisions on the ice. That is definitely a skill. I can send this out. I actually, I'm going to go off screen share for a second. I actually was wanting to get this graphic made in Canva, but I just don't have time to learn. I tried learning it, man. It's harder than I thought. Let's put it that way. So but I drew that out, and I think that's a great representation of like the entirety as a kid gets to the 16, 17, 18-year-old age. Those things are all in play. And at the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-old level, we're more at the top. We're focused at the top here with the skill, mindset, attitude. Yeah, I think it's important for all these things, and that comes in the mix. But when we're on the ice, these are the things we're working on: skill, mindset, attitude. Skill, obviously, skating and shooting and passing and stick handling and hockey IQ. And then mindset, confidence, you know, compete levels, huge, good attitude, being a good teammate, body language, that all goes into it. So at a younger age, if we can get those getting on the right track as they get older, they can focus on the other things. And the things on the top of that diagram will be more second nature to them. Because let's face it, as you get older, free time becomes more of a discipline. you know, I see it all the time when the kids get in their teenage years, they have to do it themselves too. The transfer of responsibility goes to them. I mean, do you want to go to the next level? Then you can't go out and, you know, every stinking night and have sugar with your friends and stay out late and not get enough sleep. You can't do it. You got to be disciplined and get some rest and get ready for the weekend. And even if it's practices on the weekend, especially if you're playing AAA, you got to be ready to go. And so at that age, at 16, 17, 18, you're playing AAA, that's no joke. I mean, you're getting scouted by junior scouts in colleges at that point. So anyway, that's kind of where I wanted to land on the information side of things tonight, is just kind of give you the scope of development tracks as far as a beginning picture of it. You know, the dynamic of spring and summer as it relates to development, and then as it relates to spring teams and competition and playing in on teams, and then also the pathway for most kids in Texas and Oklahoma in the younger ages. So at this point, I'm going to go turn on a light because it looks like it's getting a little dark in here in my room, but I want someone to jump in with a question if you can. I'll be right back. Anybody got any questions?
Hey, Derek, I have a question for you. This is Justin. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So for those of us that did not grow up playing hockey, right, and we're trying to teach our kids the right mechanics, you know, things to practice at home, because they don't always get that direct one-on-one kind of coaching, you know, on the ice with a group of, you know, 18 other kids.
Yep.
I mean, I've found some resources online or whatever, but then I hear conflicting information about how to have the best lap shot, how to have the best wrist shot, what to focus on first, right? So my fear at home, maybe not a fear, more of a hesitation, is actually having him shoot 500 pucks the wrong way,
right?
And like developing bad habits early on, and then having those propagate, you know, forward. So any thoughts from you in terms of what's the best spot for resources for those that, you know, don't have a long history of playing hockey and knowing those skills to pass on to our kids?
That's an excellent question, and that's a really valid question, because it's true and it happens. Is you can shoot pucks the wrong way and develop wrong habits. So the first thing I would say is be really careful with YouTube, because anybody can post on YouTube. If you're going to follow someone on YouTube, search out their validity and their experience first, and then listen to them, because I would not just, some guys are just hockey fans and they just know how to do social media. So they're got a huge following, you know? And so that would be one piece that I actually have seen in Tulsa. When I was in Tulsa, I saw a lot of people following, you know, just random people, and they weren't teaching the kids necessarily how to shoot properly. Which is a little frustrating, but it was all in good heart. So it's like, what do you do, you know? But as far as like specifically for your, like what I would do is if your player is going to be shooting at home, I would get a coach's opinion on development every month or 3 weeks. And, you know, it doesn't even take long. You don't even need to have a lesson for that. You just need to have someone that you respect and trust watch your player shoot and say, okay, what's he doing wrong? Is everything look okay? What needs to be tweaked? I mean, it literally takes 5 minutes, you know? So I've done that. Actually, I did that in Tulsa, where I would do shooting lessons once a week until they got to a point where and these are kids that just started. I'll give you an example of what I did. I did shooting lessons once a week, and it was off ice too, by the way. It wasn't on the ice. It was off ice because they're shooting off ice at the house. So I wanted everything to be as normal and exact to what I was seeing as what they were doing at the house. And I taught them from there. And then once they got going, I said, okay, once every month or 3 weeks, let's come back and do another lesson. And I'm going to tweak where we need to tweak. And, you know, and a lot of cases I did have to do that, but, and a lot of times they got it. They started getting a good snap down off the snapshot. And so it just obviously like I was saying earlier, every, development path, track is a little different where they hit a spurt of development, but that's why it needs to be monitored, in my opinion. So I would just say monitoring it, number one, and number two, just know that who you're going to has experience and kind of knows what they're talking about, you know. And if the next question is, how do I know that? Then I would just ask other coaches, you know, who do you recommend? So if you're asking me, say, Justin, ask me who I would recommend.
So who would you recommend, Eric?
Tim Turk is a guy that is on social media. He's on Instagram. He's an NHL shooting coach too, by the way, but he also teaches youth. And Tim Turk is his name, Turk. And you can literally follow him on Instagram and your son can pick up pointers. Like,
Awesome.
Like he is legit. He trained Austin Matthews. Like he has trained some high-end shooters in the NHL. So it's not like, you know, this guy just got, you know, a 7th round pick and he's saying he's an NHL coach. No, he's pretty legit, but he also works with youth, which is pretty cool. And so he would be a good resource, like online. You know, in McKinney, Yuri's awesome. Yuri's a great skills coach. Cause I know you're in McKinney, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You know, honestly, a lot of the Penguins coaches are good. You know, I guess it depends on what area and what organization the kid's playing in. I would probably do something within the organization because it would be easier to get that repetitive monitoring.
Check-ins every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that would be my, like, if I was, okay, I'll give you an example. My son in Tulsa started playing baseball. So I started getting him hitting lessons. Okay, I played baseball, but I was all hand-eye and I had no technique. And so I just knew that I needed to get him with someone. So I got him a couple lessons and I went to the guy and I said, you know, he's 8 years old, he's 9 years old. Like, how often do I need to do this? And he said, I would do it every week in season. And then if he's going to play out of season, I would do a ton of BP and come back once every other week. That's what he told me, just for the monitoring thing. You know what I mean? And so I was like, okay, you know, and so, you know, he didn't actually last that long, but to the off season, but like, it was a good experience because I got to kind of see what I would do because I wanted, you know, he wanted to be really good. And so I wanted to support that, you know, and I'm not the best guy to teach him how to like swing a bat so that he's a great batter. And I know that, you know, and so I went to the guys that I knew were decent at it. And I just said, you know, tell me what to do and how often to do it. And, you know, and we'll see what we can do here. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you.
Anytime. Good question.
Thanks.
Who's next?
I guess I'll go.
Yeah,
one question one question I have is well, first, Justin, you stole my first question, damn it. Second question though is so one thing I watch in my players sometimes is and it started to improve here recently, but it's like you want to get that level of aggression there to where they understand there's no hesitation. Let's just go. If we make a mistake at 100 miles an hour, let's make a mistake at 100 miles an hour. What types of things can I do at home to help build that mindset?
Oh, and that is a really good question. And if I can come up with a formula, I will market the fire out of it. And, that's a hard one. That one just needs to be, I think, here's what I think. I think it needs to be, you know how you peel back the layers of an onion?
Yep.
Versus just going whack and just hammering it and going right to the core. You know, at that point, it's cut in half. It is, you know, it's not whole anymore, but you peel it back and you can kind of just get a sense of where this is coming from. Why is this happening? You know, and you know, I think once those initial things are identified, then it's working on those things, you know, like for instance, if there's a fear of failure, or if there's a fear of being embarrassed, or if there is fear of getting hurt, or if there's just not give a crap factor, you know, at least you identified it, you know, because at the end of the day, you don't, it's like taking a dog for a walk that doesn't want to go for a walk. You're dragging it the whole time, you know, like you don't want to do that either. So at some point, and you know, the kids are young, so I feel like they deserve a chance. I mean, they're playing the game because they love it, but sometimes they got to work through things, and it requires just a process of peeling back and trying to identify why your players playing that way, you know, and for instance, if it's because of a fear of failure, well, then the fear needs to be addressed. Okay, like it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are good, and then supporting that statement with credibility. Okay, and I'll give you a for instance on that, on this specific case. Okay, a player's afraid to make mistakes. Well, fear will paralyze anybody. If you play in fear, you're not going to ever play your best, ever. And so dealing with that fear is the real thing, not you need to be going harder. That's not, when the fear's gone, they'll go harder. You know what I mean? Like that will happen. So dealing with fear is what needs to happen. And so by identifying that and supporting, you know, here's why it's okay to not be afraid. You can make mistakes because mistakes happen and you can learn, and that's how you learn, and that's how you get better. You improve by making mistakes. So if you backtrack, there's no reason to be afraid here because you have to make mistakes to get better. And so like trying to piece those together and then getting like motivational quotes from people who are successful, like Michael Jordan is awesome about, he's got quotes all over social media on you think I just ended up this way? He goes, no, I've missed so many. The ball's been in my hand many times and I've missed. But if it, and Kobe is the same way. Basketball players are great at it because they just take shots, because the game's on the line. It comes down to the last shot. You know what I mean? And they got to be ready for it. And so they're a great analogy because they have to take thousands of shots to make the one shot that counts. And so, you know, and it's the same for hockey players, really. They got to take thousands of shots so that when the time is there for them to make that shot, so to speak, they can do that. And that's a process. It's hard for a 8, 9, 10-year-old to understand, you know, not everybody's wired like that. So I guess educating, motivating through supporting, I guess, documentation of people who've been through it and been successful, and then identifying what's really causing that, and then attacking that and trying to help your player overcome that would be my advice. And I think we're on our way there, Mike, by the way, because I work with your son. I think we're on our way there with that.
Yeah, I saw a couple today where he stepped into a kid and I was like, wow, all right, there we go.
Yep. It's a process.
Coach.
Yes.
Coach Derek. Yeah. Follow-up question, kind of related to the fear and maybe anxiety more on the parent side. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Very informative. Absolutely. And my player was lucky enough to be part of the HD Engine program during the spring and summer. And to be honest, this is his first year, 7-year-old. We have no idea what to expect until, the first game, right? Now, looking back, I think it's a huge success for the last Boston Showdown. The 7-year-old group, the 15 team, did pretty well.
Yeah.
Much better than I expected.
Did.
In that program, during that tournament. No, but while we were there, we're also looking at the 8-year-old and the 9-year-old, how they played, how our team play against them, and I have to say, there's some anxiety and some kind of fear start to grow in me regarding, how our players would go, say, this year, right, against their 8-year-old. Given what we see and how we did. Now,
Why is that?
it just, the result, right? How we ranked and how many games we win. We don't have to, like, as a parent, we wanted the kids to go to the top tournaments to see what's going on, and also try to build up on this confidence, right? You practice so hard for a whole year, and then see, okay, you get a reasonably good result and get a reward for it. I don't want them to get discouraged by going to these tournaments and not really winning so much, right? So that's where kind of the anxiety of the parents coming in. Just want to get some suggestions, like what to do better, and what can we do now this year to hope for a better result. I just a parent of as one single player,
Yeah.
we can train really hard, but we need a very competitive team to actually do well, right? Shall we organize more practices? But again, that's, as you said, it's against the Taha thing during the regular
Boy,
season.
if we could, I would. I would definitely do that.
Right, but the worst case is not going at all, but that's also not enough practice, enough experience. That's a good experience.
Right. Well,
or even find a different team. I just want to get some suggestions from you what to do.
I would like to offer just maybe a little bit of a shift in the mindset on that, because of in relation to the overall long-term growth process. So if you're going to tournaments for success only, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. If we're afraid to go to a tough tournament because we might get beat, then I think that's the wrong reason to go to the tournament. I think it's the reason you go to the tournament is to see where you're at and give it your best against the best and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, when this is said and done 10 years from now, no one's going to remember that tournament. Not one person. You won't even remember it. I won't remember it unless we record it and say, put it in our phone and say, go back to that tournament and see how we did. That would be the only way. No one's going to remember this tournament. So what it's about is development. And so I guess what I would recommend is to embrace the development process as much as possible, regardless of the outcome, and know that we will set ourselves up to win. We go to win. We're not going to lose. But if we don't win, we're not like defeated about it, and nor should our players be, because at the end of the day, when they are older, the teams that they're playing against will be look a lot different than they do today. And the teams that they're on right now at HCN will look different too. I mean, there's so much change involved. There's a lot of change. And it's because people move to different parts of the country and different cities, and also kids, you know, go up and down. So I would say, you know, in regards to how young the 15s are, they're just getting started. Two things. Each birth year is different. So like if you look at the birth year ahead of you, well, they might not be as strong as your birth year. So when you go in, you might have a better chance of winning, number one, because your birth year is a little stronger. You might have stronger players early on, you know, but 5 years from now, that 2014 birth year might be the strongest birth year out of either the 14s or the 15, depending on how well each one of these players develop. So, you know, it's a long-term process. I hope that makes sense. It is a long-term process. The problem is we just want to focus on now and say, we got to win now. Yeah, we're going to win. We're going to the tournament to compete and win, and we're going to play to win. But if we don't win, we're not going to feel less confident about it. We're just going to say, okay, we got to get better at this area, you know, and then go back and work on it as much as we can. And the hard part about going back and work on it in Tahoe is that you can't do it during the season when,
Yes.
at that age, you know. So, but the reason that is, and I'll tell you why that is, the philosophy for that is that it's all going to level out when they're 14, 15, 16 anyway. So they're not interested in putting all this effort into younger kids winning at a younger age when they should be focusing on them being good skaters and stick handlers and passers. And then when they get to, you know, 14, 15, they can teach them how to chip a puck out of the zone or play defense because they already know how to skate and handle the puck. But if the kid can't handle the tempo of an elite game because he's not good enough a skater, it doesn't matter. Even if he knows what to do, he's not going to be able to do it. So their philosophy is, and I agree with this actually a little bit, like you have to be a great skilled player to be able to translate. So that's why, like at the 15 level, like we don't really work on defense a whole. We go over the structure of defense, but when you're 14, anybody can be taught how to play defense. Anybody. So, but not anybody can skate really well or stick handle really well. Not, you got to take the best to be the best. And so that's where the difference is made in elite hockey at the teenage years, is you got to combine the skill and the development, and then you start to implement more structure and team play and strategy within that team play. Like we're not running face-offs. I'll see some of these teams, they're running face-off drills at 8 years old. I'm like, okay, well, they obviously have time to do it, so great, I'll go for it. But like, I'm more interested in our guys learning how to catch a backhand pass going full speed than running a face-off play at 8 years old. Because when they're 14, they're going to go to one video session and learn how to do that face-off play. But they're not going to be able to jump on the ice one time and catch a backhand pass when they're 14. They might not ever, if they don't learn to do it by then. They might not ever be able to catch one at full speed if they don't do it by the time they're 14. So the philosophy difference within the tournament structure is a little different there on my end for HDNG anyway. Like I would like to win, but like I don't think we've ever won at 14 or 15, and I don't care. At like let me say that again. At 6, at 7 and 8-year-old tournaments, we've gone to Brick Series. I don't think we've ever won one. But at 13 and 14, we've won them. Why is that? Because we're developing them right. We're teaching them how to play the game where it's going to count when they're 14, 15, 16 years old. And so I've actually seen it in the 5 short years of HD Engine. I had my son's age was 08 birth year. I'll give you an example. We went to the first year, we went to the Brick Series. We played Team Saskatchewan the first game, and they looked like robots out there. They were huge. They could all skate, they could all pass, and for 8-year-olds. And I was like, uh-oh, this is not going to be good. We ended up losing 25-0. All right. And then we played some Toronto team and we lost, I don't know, 21-0. And then we got beat 11-1. And then we lost another game by like 7 goals. So we went winless that first year. All right. If you fast forward to 2 years ago, we won the 08, that same birth year. Now we made a couple changes with players because of again, a couple players go up and down through the years, but we won the Triple Crown tournament, which is the best tournament in North America for that birth year, in 2021. And so it's like, it was awesome because it was gratifying to win, but it was just gratifying to be there and compete, knowing that 5 years ago we were getting our butts wiped by these guys. We were getting smoked, but our kids saw it. They went back to work. The parents didn't make excuses. They went back to work and they worked on their skills and they worked on their hockey IQ and they worked with their winter teams. And then they came back to HG Engine and they went back to the winter teams and they came back to HG Engine, went back to the winter teams and they kept working on skill. And it is a process and it's a marathon and it takes time. And so that's why I'm just like, I would really, it's going to be an emotional roller coaster if you're looking at each tournament, if you got to win or not, because it's not going to happen every time. However, what will happen is your kid will either love the game and get better or will be discouraged because of the way that the perception of it is. You know what I mean? So my perception that first year was, it wasn't, you guys suck, you're not doing anything, we're never going to make it. I'm like, no, I didn't say that. I said, hold on. There's tears. I know we're crying. We got beat by 20 goals. You guys have never played at that level ever. It was your first time ever doing that. So, okay, now what are you going to do with that? Are you just going to cry about it? Or are we going to go back to work? Because I think you guys can play with them. You just need more practice at it, And so like, that was my vocabulary to them. That was my message to them. And the parents thought the same thing. And it takes believing. I believe it or not, you have to have faith. You have to believe in something you can't see. But the cool thing about this is you're getting advice from people who have seen it already. All right. I've seen it even happen with HG Engine, but I've seen it before that too. But like I've actually seen it with kids in the South, in Texas, in Oklahoma, and St. Louis. I've seen it happen. You just got to have the right mindset about it and be patient and keep working and keep going and don't take no for an answer. And here's what I always tell my kids. And I say kid, I mean my players. It's not over until you say it is. It's not over. It's not over until you say it is. Once you say it's over, then it's over. But you have a factor here. How bad do you want it? Let's go. You got parents that are dishing out the money for you to come to these tournaments, work your butt off, have fun. You have parents that are giving you skating lessons, that are doing skill sessions, work your butt off, get better, have fun, love the game, enjoy it, and see what happens and go for your dreams. That's my message to everybody. So, spring and summer is great. It's not about winning, losing. It's not about getting them in front of other coaches. It's about getting them in front of the competition so that they can learn from it. And eventually they will get there. I'm just telling you, they'll get there. We have so many good players from the Texas area. So many good players with skill that if everybody that's good right now at the young age will buy into this process, I'm telling you, people from all over the country will be like, what is going on down there? What are they doing? You know what I mean? But it's because you're doing it the right way, and there's no secret sauce. I mean, they're doing the same thing in Boston. They just have more kids up there, playing.
They got exposed to the flies much earlier, and they have the flies regular seasons at 7, 8.
Yeah, so in the development track, they go like this a lot quicker, but then they start to go like this. Whereas we're kind of here because we don't see it or practice it, and then we go like this. And you know what I mean? In Texas, and at the end of the day, you want to peak at the right time. You really do. You don't want to peak at 9. You want to peak at 16. That's when you want to peak your performance. But again, it becomes more complicated. Going back to that graphic that I showed you, there's more things involved at that point. And, you know, and let's face it, there's the same amount of time. We don't get more, there's 24 hours in a day. And so there has to be more discipline. There has to be more structure. There has to be more of a schedule that's followed, you know, and that's why those kids practice all the time and eat right and, you know, do all that stuff. So anyway, I'll get off the soapbox. I hope that answered the question.
Yep. Thank you.
You feel better or worse?
Well, tell them the story you told, you know, about the OA team, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love that example. And I tell that to encourage you because, you know, they had a rough start, man. They had a rough start, but we had good skill. We had good skill on that team. And I knew it. And I just knew they needed to be around it more and just go through that development track process and just keep coming back, just keep going, you know, and we did. And you know what else kind of came out of it as a side note? These kids talk to each other. They're from St. Louis to Colorado to Oklahoma to Texas. They're on social media now because they're 14, but they're friends. They're buddies, you know, and then when they play each other in the fall, they're hugging each other after games. So cool to see. I mean, how gratifying is that? You know, I mean, they're competing, but they love each other and they've met people from different parts of the country, you know, and it's just awesome. Does anybody else have questions? I'll keep going at 7:09, but I'll keep going if we got questions. Dan, you got anything?
Derek, where does fitting in playing another sport fall into the development track and trying to balance some of these things because they are 7 or 8, and in a year from now he might not want to continue doing sport X or Y. Where does that fall into this conversation?
At that age, I think it's super important. Super important. My kid cross-sported, like I told you, played baseball. He did lacrosse, did soccer. I mean, not all at the same time. I mean, obviously schedules are involved here, right? And there were different seasons, fall and spring seasons and summer seasons of each sport. But you know, spring and summer is a good opportunity to do that stuff. It's a little more hectic in the fall and winter, but even then I would do it because if you can do it with your schedule, because you're building this athleticism, but you're also building experience with other teammates in a different setting. And even though it's not the same rules or the same sport, you're encouraging the same principles of teamwork, hard work. And anytime, you know, a young child can translate that to different areas, it's going to start clicking. It's going to start clicking. You know what I mean? And I think it's proven actually that the athleticism part helps too. Like if you can throw a baseball and, you know, kick a ball and play hockey, you're probably a better overall athlete than if you just did one of them, you know? So, and athleticism is important in hockey. You gotta be a good athlete. You gotta be coordinated. You gotta be able to, I mean, you don't necessarily need to throw the heat, you know, but like, you should be able to do it. Like when I see hockey players throw a baseball like this, I just cringe, you know, like, okay, no, turn your shoulder, come on, get the wrist involved, you know, like throw it right, you know, like, and actually you know, my Penguins team, we started doing stuff like that. We were doing cartwheels and played soccer last week and did a little basketball game for Dryland because I don't know how much of them are doing that. And I think it's super important. So, you know, if there's no time for it, maybe ask your coach if you can do that, if there is a dry land session or if there is a, you know, like, I just think that it's really good to do, you know, and golf's a great sport. That's not necessarily a team deal, but like, It's a good one too. And it's it's a little bit more relaxed, especially in the weather down here is beautiful. So, good hand-eye coordination, just have to work with your body mechanics and timing and just, it's it's motor skills. It's learning how to do it all. And then because in hockey, you got to be able to, you're in all these different situations. You're twisting, you're turning, you're off balance, you're on balance, you're forward, you're backward, and so like, if they have that foundation of being able to do that in different sports, I feel like it translates a little better as they get older. So I would highly recommend that at this age. When they get a little older, it naturally goes like this anyway, because everything's getting so specialized with youth competitive sports and travel sports, but like, go for it at that age.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? All right, well, going once, going twice. All right, well, hey, you guys, thank you so much for being on the call. I really enjoy this. Now, is everybody on CoachNow on this call? Are you on the Game Changer parent?
Yes.
CoachNow? I would
I'm
like,
not.
can you email me?
Yeah.
I'll get you on there. I would like to get everybody on there because I want this to be more parent driven than anything. Like I can put stuff on there, but I'm doing this for parents. So like, if there's no interaction, then I really don't know what to hit. I can say stuff like I did tonight, but
Mhm.
chances are, 90% of that was not caught. It was just a lot, but some, maybe I can delve into a little bit of that or hit you where you need it and maybe go down a rabbit hole and really help out in a detailed situation, so my point of that is ask questions, respond, say, hey, do you have anything with this, or how do you do this, or just ask, just be interactive. I want to encourage you to do that because that will really help the dialogue and the information flow become a little bit more juicy for you, but also probably more consistent too. I'll be able to consistently do it more because I know what you want. So, all right.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time, Derek. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a great night, you guys. Boom. Talk soon.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Yep. See ya.
All right, bye.
Okay.
Bye.